Welcome back to Waking Mad. I'm Ben Bruce, and we have the absolute pleasure of interviewing Sharon Tregoning.
That'll do.
Did I pronounce that correctly?
That'll do.
Now, Sharon Tregoning is a spiritual palliative care advisor.
Spiritual counsellor is the term
counsellor.
I generally go with.
Okay. And so Sharon specialises in Noosa. I believe you have a consultancy in Noosa.
I do. I cover from Gympie, which is just north of the Sunshine Coast,
Yeah.
all the way down to Brisbane, and I go to people wherever they are located.
Okay. And Sharon has to travel around because she helps people who are dying. So it's quite a sobering thought. And, you know, we're interested in consciousness and philosophy of consciousness here at Waking Mad. And so what happened around the point of death and how best to help people who are dying. And also, as we were talking just before the show, what happens to the counsellor or the practitioner who is helping someone die in terms of the impact on their consciousness and on their sense of living their own life, being around death so much. And I was just saying to Sharon that she's so alive, she's so full of life, she's so positive, I can feel the energy. And we're just talking about how tired we were because we'd come on, flights and everything. It's the end of the day, and yet still this great energy. I was feeling tired about half an hour ago, and ever since I just spoke to Sharon, just feel lifted. So that's the kind of person you want around you when you're dying, I think. So, and so your turn. So please tell us about spiritual palliative care. Where do you start?
Spiritual palliative care came about because I lost 4 loved ones in the space of 5 years, and 3 of those were just in 2.5. So death became very much front and centre in my world. I was already doing spiritual counselling. I am a psychic medium as well, but it evolved more, and I had a couple of clients that also had parents that they were losing. And I had this sudden awareness, and this is the literal thought, it was, wouldn't it be cool to hold space for someone who's dying? And
holding space, it's a very brilliant term, I think.
It is,
Yeah.
it is. But I thought, cool, that's an interesting choice of word, but wouldn't it be cool to hold space for someone who's dying and help them transition?
Because they can be quite
whatever comes
terrifying,
on?
can't they?
They can, very much so. And that fear can come from a number of different places, depending on what's going on for that person. Obviously, with people who've been in structured religion, it can be the fear of judgment thing. They could have led a life like Mother Teresa, and they still have that fear of judgment thing. I had one lady recently who, according to some of her loved ones, had not had a very love-filled life and didn't embody love, shall we say, in the way she lived her life in terms of giving it. And they could see that there was a lot of fear going on for her, but they didn't understand what was going on. So I did connect in with her after energetically getting her permission. And what can often happen with people who are dying is they can sort of put a toe in the water. They can start to transition, and it's a gradual process. You'll hear some people...
It doesn't just dramatically...
Not always.
It's a dying
it is for
process
some,
sometimes, yeah.
But when you're in a palliative scenario, it's sometimes sort of tripping over and coming back and forwards a little bit. And this lady had done that, and the fear for her was, as we know, the next experience is one of pure and unconditional love. And that was so alien to her that the thought of being in that space absolutely terrified her. So her fear wasn't around judgment, it was, how do I go to this place when it was just so alien, it wasn't how she'd lived. So we worked through that on an energetic level. She wasn't conscious at this stage, and this was all done remotely, which is one of the gifts of my work. I don't have to be physically present. And we're able to work through that, and also with some of her loved ones, there was some healing that was able to take place as well, because they then had an understanding of the fear for her, and were able to create some peace around that for her. So it's the driving question with all of my work is, what will give you peace? So what do we need to talk about? What do we need to work through? What do we need to take care of that's going to give you peace?
So you'll just ask that question, you'll bring that topic up.
Yeah, if they're conscious, yeah.
Okay, so when they're unconscious, how are you communicating with them?
I'd like to say telepathically.
That could be the case.
It's an energetic level.
There's quite a lot of evidence for telepathy.
Yeah.
If you do the research, it's there. So I would,
It's a psychic type connection. It's an energetic. It's a heart-based connection. all of the work I do is very much, I get into my heart space and then expand that energy. I had one lady who was in a shared room of a hospice. Don't get me started on shared rooms in hospices. And
Likes.
yeah, anyway, there's just no respect in that scenario, but that's a whole other discussion. And in the time I saw her, which was about a period of 3 weeks, there would have been at least half a dozen people that went through that other bed. And she was actually really okay on her journey, but the energy in the room sucked, to be honest, because there'd just been so much death and it hadn't all necessarily been peaceful. So what she needed more than anything was just the energy of the room transformed. So most of my work was in silence with her, and I was physically with her in this one. And it was, again, just going into the heart space, but expanding that to transform the energy in the room. So it was gentle and peaceful and loving. And that was what she needed. So there's no standard answer for the question, what do you do?
Mm-hmm. You're helping.
Yeah.
Really, you're helping.
Yeah.
In whatever way seems necessary, appropriate, possible.
That's it.
That's what I'm picking up.
That's it. Yeah. And that's that question, what's going to give you peace? And it's very much about enabling the person who's dying to have a good dying and death experience as defined by them, and whatever that means with them. And that may mean then working with the loved ones to help them understand what's going on, so that then we can work on either reducing or eliminating what will be regret from their grieving experience. If we can get rid of that, because it's unnecessary. So that's the focus for my work with the loved ones. Let's see that this is a great dying and death experience as defined by your loved one, helping them create that, but then also supporting the loved ones so that they understand what's going on, particularly if there's discord or misunderstanding, but creating that peace so they have an easier grieving experience.
You mentioned that you're a psychic medium.
Yep.
Okay. Have you always been this way?
Nope. Let me rephrase that. I haven't always had the awareness that I've been this way. I probably have been, as most are.
So when did it come on?
In the last 6-7 years. So it's fairly new.
Okay. When you're doing this work?
Yeah. Oh, no, this work came after. So, the last 7-8 years journey has been fairly significant in my life in terms of changing. My background's corporate admin and customer service, and my hubby and I had a B&B out at the Yarra Valley before we moved up to the Sunshine Coast. So this
You've had a big
working
life
this area,
transformation.
Yeah.
Huge.
Huge. And a lot of that was my sister's death was the catalyst for that, and re-examining my life and what's important and what's not.
It's interesting. We were just at a lecture by PMH Atwater, who is a near-death experience researcher, probably one of the world's foremost, I'd suggest.
I'd say so, with almost 40 years of research under her belt.
Absolutely. So she has a PhD and she's written dozen books plus.
Yeah, something like that.
And she was saying that people's intelligence and other capacities, including sensitivity and an affinity with nature, and really sensitivity to sound, light, smell, and also psychism or psychic capacity expands or is enhanced after a near-death experience. Particularly the younger that you are. It's almost like if it's in the first year of life or something like that, I think it was like 96% of people who've had a near-death experience come back enhanced in some way, often to genius level IQ, 160 plus. So your sister died.
Yep.
Did that have a similar effect then that PMH Atwater's talking about with regard to one's own near-death experience? Did you kind of have an empathic near-death experience or something like that?
I don't know. There's another story here which is one to explore. My sister had breast cancer, and we actually discovered after her diagnosis that we had a substantial family history through Dad's side of breast cancer. Okay. As a result, I chose to undergo a preventative double mastectomy with reconstruction.
I see.
That was 8 years ago. It was 3 months after my sister's death, and I was on the operating table 11 hours. Right near the end of it, my hubby, and I didn't find this out till months later, said to me that all of a sudden there were crash carts running to the operating theatre where I was. Now, they said to him, someone pressed the wrong button. I don't have conscious awareness of having had a near-death experience, But particularly with being here this weekend and just my own spiritual awakening journey since that time, I do wonder whether someone really did press the wrong button or whether something did happen. I don't know. I have someone that I will undergo hypnotherapy with that I trust implicitly, that I know won't plant anything. It's something that I do want to explore. But it's, in the last couple of months particularly, it's sort of been, okay, maybe I did. I recently read Anita Mojani's Dying to Be Me, and I'm reading this and I'm going, this is not new information to me. So I don't know, is the short answer. Possibly. It may have just been empathic with my sister's journey. It may have been my own, one of which I don't have conscious awareness at this stage. I don't know.
I must admit, just to share something with myself, because it does relate to what you're saying, is I've had an encounter with death when my older brother died.
Yeah.
And so I found him deceased, I found him dead, or dying as the case might have been.
Yeah.
And it was obviously traumatic, and it initiated this condition we call post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD.
Yeah.
And my sensitivity obviously went through the roof as a result of that. And then the recovery process from PTSD as a child. So I got into martial arts and meditation and yoga from a young age, and obviously was interested in psychology and studied psychology and clinical hypnotherapy and counselling and all these sorts of things, read lots of books and personal development. So I'm thinking any encounter with death or something as dramatic as death can just be, quite epic. I mean, usually PTSD or trauma does involve some kind of threat to life.
Yeah.
So whether we're talking a near-death experience or PTSD with a close call of some sort, of danger or safety, it's a similar sort of thing, isn't it?
It could
It's a
be,
shock
and that
to your
was
life
what PMH was saying in terms of near-death-like experiences. And certainly with the things she was describing, as you've just described as well, so it's like, they're all the indicators for me of my spiritual awakening.
She had like 20 or 30 factors that change.
And I'm just going tick, tick.
And I was
tick,
doing the same
tick,
thing, tick, tick, tick.
So
I don't know if that's like a tick phenomena that happens when people introduce a list to you, but who knows? I mean, and also, do we always know? Like you've said, you're on the table, you're anaesthetised. Do we always know when we've had a near-death experience?
Well, that's something that I've wanted to ask and haven't had the opportunity to yet. It's like, is there always conscious awareness?
Say you're asleep.
That's it.
And you have some kind of a allergic, anaphylactic, sleep apnea sort of scenario, and you die for 5 minutes, and you come back to life, and go back to sleep, right? Yeah. And I know that if you're awake for less than 10 seconds, you can have amnesia of that waking event. Yeah. Maybe we just don't know. Maybe we die all the time.
Don't know. We may do. We may do.
Unless you've got an ECG or an EEG.
Yeah.
You're not going to know, are you?
No, you're not.
This has been a bit mind-blowing, sorry, this topic that's come up. I know we wanted to talk about palliative care.
No, that's okay.
It just became death is obviously a massive point of departure, I mean. And it's going to happen to all of us.
It is, until cryogenics get its act sorted out.
They've got to get their act together, those lazy buggers.
Lazy buggers.
Well, Disney's head
I know, it is. But in some ways for me, it's almost irrelevant, the catalyst, because I'm just so thankful for the life that I'm living now. I know that I'm on purpose. I know that I'm doing what I came here to do, and all of my previous life experiences are part of the fabric, the patchwork, to use the cliches, that make up who I am today and enable me to be effective at what I do today, to have understanding, to have compassion, and that sort of thing with the life experiences that I've been through. So in some ways it's almost irrelevant. It's now just harnessing the power of those for good. So using my powers for good, not evil, and making
That's
the
a good
most.
thing.
It is. You don't want to see my dark side. Ask my daughter, she'll say, no, you don't want to see mum's dark side.
I hope you're expressing it through radical art and not just repressing it deeply.
I think I've actually metamorphosed it because it just, it's...
Yeah. That's another possibility, metamorphosing it.
Yeah,
Transposing
when you
it.
go through some serious
That's why I'm always quite...
shit.
Yeah.
This is web-based, isn't it? Good, yes. when you can come out to the other side and be thankful for the shitty experiences, that's when you know you've done a transformation. And I've had that. I've been through sexual abuse, I've been through emotional abuse and all of that, to now be in a place where I'm thankful for those experiences because of who I am now today. That's huge. That's healing.
That's resolving unresolved issues right there, isn't it?
It is.
And pain that doesn't kill us makes us stronger, the Nietzsche. I mean, it's very true, isn't it?
That's it, but it's actually having the conscious awareness to take those steps and turn something around. And
so you get the opportunity or the experience or the trigger, but it's what you do with it that matters.
It is.
Isn't it?
And I love your explanation of consciousness, because consciousness is the birthplace of change. If you don't have that awareness, you can't change anything. So
without consciousness, what do we have?
That's it. So it's about being fully conscious in our lives. It's questioning anything and everything. And it may be, you may explore your life and go, yeah, actually the way I've been doing that's okay. But it's making that choice consciously. That's the vital part. And that was the stuff I was doing before I started doing the death stuff with my clients that I would do spiritual counselling. It's about creating that state of consciousness in your life. It's being authentic, it's being responsible, it's living with gratitude. It's all of those things, but it begins with consciousness. So it's...
And did you practice psychic development? Or did it happen automatically?
No, I practiced it. I had... it was following the intuition. I met a lady at a business networking event and she was a psychic medium. I thought, ooh, I've got to have a session with you, and I did that. And then she was running an intro to psychic development course. And I thought, oh, that'd be a bit fun. But the intuition said go along, so I did. We got to play with different modalities. We did some psychometry, some oracle cards, some crystals. And the psychometry one was interesting. We all had to put something in a bag and pull it out. So we had no idea who we were getting something for. It was completely blind. And then we just had to start sharing what we were getting. And apparently the stuff I was getting for the lady whose piece of jewellery I had was spot on. I was like, okay, there's something to this. I might have something here. And it was just following the intuition of, okay, have a play with this, have a do with that. And just doing courses and learning and following the intuition and connecting with the divine. And it's just been gradual learning and stepping up and expanding. And like any other muscle, the more you use it, the better you get and the stronger the connection.
And how much of that is intention based? Or is it all these occult practices of energy development and ceremony? Or is it more to do with intention? And
how much is it intention based?
Or do you follow specific procedures or protocols to stimulate this?
No, I don't. It's intention of honouring my own connection, and divine working through me as is appropriate for me. Okay. I have started recently doing some shamanic practice, and that feels like I've come home in terms of particularly connecting with animals and their spirits and their guides.
You can just see the point of departure here. It can go in all these different directions once you start to evoke your consciousness, really.
Yeah. And it's intention's a really good word. It is. I have the absolute intent to expand and to grow and to harness these gifts and make the most of them. And I always hold them being for the highest and best good of all involved. But how that particularly manifests, there's no intention around that.
And you've written a book?
I have. This is actually my second book. I did one on my surgical journey.
You've written 2 books?
I have written 2 books.
Okay.
This is the most recent one. So this is the shameless plug section of the interview.
Feel free to be shameless plugging. This should be our mission statement, really.
Shameless plug incorporated.
If it's going to spread the word for consciousness, and especially something as beautiful as spiritual palliative care, then I think absolutely.
Yeah.
So farewell with grace.
Farewell with grace for loved ones. Support for you as you support your dying loved ones. So this is, it's not a thesis, it's not heavy, it's designed to be light and practical and
accessible,
supportive. Yeah, a book that people will use to help them as they're supporting a loved one through the journey. Ideally, they actually get this before they're in the last months and weeks, because when you're in that space, your brain's on overload, so you can't take information in. So hopefully this gets to people earlier in the journey if they have that awareness. So then they've got the skills and some tools and some resources at their hands to help make that journey just a little bit easier.
I don't know if I'm on the right track here, but considering this is going to happen to everyone,
that's it.
Maybe we should be reading this sort of thing when we're well.
Yes, please.
And not wait for the shit to hit the fan.
Yeah, that's it. That's the aim of the game. Yeah. I had someone recently I connected, she lost her husband 2 years ago, and she bought the book, and she said, "Did you write this for me in the final stages?" I said, "No." I said, "Hopefully you'd get it beforehand." So she said, "Yeah, good," because I couldn't take anything in that stage. And I said, "Yeah, we don't talk about dying and death these days, and we've got really good as a society at isolating our dying and insulating ourselves from the experience. So we don't know what to expect."
So we have to do dying and death better.
Yeah, we do.
We have to lift our game.
We do.
Medically, familially, socially, relationally, communally.
Yeah, every which way.
Yeah.
And we can. It's getting back to accepting it as a natural part of the life cycle. Yeah. That none of us is going to get out of this physical life with physicality. Yes, there will be continuity of life.
You're not going to get out of this alive.
No, not physically. No, you have a physical body and it's going to cease to exist.
What do you think happens to consciousness at the point of death and thereon?
Oh, absolutely continues. I have no hesitation with that. One of the gifts with not having been aware that I'm a psychic medium all my life is that I am a bit sceptical by nature. So when I'm working with someone...
That's healthy.
It is.
As opposed to gullible. That's on the other side.
Yeah, so I have had stuff come through that there is no possible way I could know. And I'm really thingy when I'm working with someone in spirit. I say, you need to give me a whole lot of stuff so that I can be absolutely sure that I have who I say I've got, and the loved one who's still here in the physical knows that I've got you. So for me, that's one of the gifts of not having had the awareness. So I have absolutely no doubt there is continuity of life.
So what do you think is the most important thing about dying then? If you were to sum
context?
It all up, all your experience and research and everything into one thing, if possible, what do you think is like the most important thing to do around dying?
It's the cliche, but it really does come back to self-love and creating an environment of love, because that's the state that we're going into. So it just makes that transition. Yeah, okay. Being loving to self, first and foremost, because you can't fill anyone else's cup until you've filled your own. But it's coming from a space of non-judgment. That, for me, I got given a little quotey thing that I made up recently, and it was, judgment says your way is not right. Discernment says your way is not right for me. And I really love the energy of that in terms of giving some perspective around it, because we live in a society that encourages judgment as blood sport, pretty much, particularly in the social media arena.
I was just thinking, as soon as you said that, I thought social media.
Yeah, and it is. It's a blood sport. It seriously is. So that gave me a frame of reference, okay, because we still want to have what's right and wrong for us. So it's not coming from a place of judgment, because that's external to us. It's coming from a place of discernment. So if we can start removing judgment from the experience in everything we do, but particularly around dying and death, and particularly for people who want to go down the complementary therapy road or want to go down the no treatment road, that's the most important thing for us on the external. For the person who's dying, it's being allowed to have a good dying and death experience as defined by them. They are a sovereign being. They have this right.
Well, thank you, Sharon, for coming on Waking Mad.
Pleasure. Thank you.
It's been a wonderful pleasure. Pleasure's all mine, I do think. And I would like to thank you at home for watching this. And I think spiritual palliative care is a very important field, and it's going to happen to all of us and everyone we love and care about. And so we need to be prepared. It's a very sobering field, very sobering thought, but also a very love-based thought and field, as is embodied by this lady next to me now. So please, if you've enjoyed watching Waking Mad and following our podcast, please subscribe and please share and like us on social media.
The good side of social media.
That's right.
Using
Thanks
the
a lot.
powers for good.
See you next time.